Hey everyone, today I'm going to be doing my book presentation on The Seven Silly Eaters by Marianne Hoberman and illustrated by Marla Frazee. This, growing up, was my favorite children's book, still is today. For me, it probably started as the feeling of being able to relate to it. I was the baby of 7 children, and the baby of 7 children, and so the fact that there are 7 children in this book to me felt very relatable, but that is not the only reason why I think this really is just a spectacular children's book. So illustrations, as you can see, are very realistic, which I appreciate. I feel like children look at them as more believable, and the message that they're telling is more believable and authentic when the illustrations exemplify that reality, when they're more realistic, and at least that's always how I always felt as a child. So the illustrations, as you can see, Marla Frazee uses a lot of white space, and this white space it takes up most of the pages. What she does is she just kind of highlights the main action of the image, surrounding it with white space, making it simple for children, for young readers who might be overwhelmed by the realism if it's presented in a grand scale. Although she does do this several places in the book where there's large, full-size illustrations, but she spaces them out enough that I don't think it would be overwhelming to a young reader, at least it wasn't to me. But I do think that the white space that she uses is so key to making it something that's easy to follow for a young reader. About the illustrations as well, I just like how natural the colors are. It kind of corresponds with the realism of the illustrations. But they are all very warm, light, and bright colors. They reflect the seasons that they're in, so this one's a little bit darker obviously because it's fall. Then we've got kind of the dark, the fire's going and it's winter, things like that. And what I especially love about these illustrations is how well they correspond with the setting and the plot, because obviously this is just kind of your normal average family. They're not anything too special, just kind of getting through life. But the attention to detail given, I think, gives them even more character. This one's really funny. You can see one of the sons just in the bathroom, just sitting there with the door wide open. And this picture I love so much because there's even used tissues. Lucy's used tissues on the table. There's little boots by the stairs, blocks on the floor, just pretty messy. Even in the background, the apples aren't all in the bowl, kind of falling all over the place. And to me, this really represents who this family is. They're very normal, they're very relatable, and they're very lovable because of these things. And then the organization of this book, I think, is something that's also very appealing, especially to young readers. So we start out with obviously this new family. Mr. and Mrs. Peters are young. They only have one little baby, Peter, and life is happy and simple, as expressed in this photo. There's no mess yet, which I think is very funny. But Marianne Hoberman, she uses an AABBCC rhyme scheme. So not so long ago, they say a mother lived just like today. Mrs. Peters was her name. Her little boy was named the same. Now Peter was a perfect son in every way except for one. Then we go on to learn that Peter he's very particular about his milk. Doesn't like it too warm, doesn't like it too cold, likes it just this perfect temperature, and if it's not the perfect temperature, then he'll dump it on the floor. But Mrs. Peters is this new mother at the time, very patient, and just kind of blows it off and says, well, this is just, she says, and chuckles softly to herself, what a silly sort of eater is my darling baby Peter. So then the next child is introduced, Lucy, and just like with Peter, Lucy gets 3 pages dedicated to her situation and her love for pink lemonade. So here's Peter and Lucy loving her lemonade, Peter loving his just perfect temperature milk, and it goes on and on that way. Here's with Jack and his applesauce, and she makes it homemade, Mac with his oatmeal, and then get Mary Lou, who loves her bread, and so on. So now all these children are involved, and I love this one because it includes all of the children, all of their likes and dislikes, but they're growing, so they want more and more and more. So you can see that we're getting to the climax of this book, and Mrs. Peters cracks. She loses it. She's overwhelmed, and the children are kind of, you can see by their expressions, this is something completely new to them. This is shocking to them that their mother isn't this perfect superhero that they thought she was. And so she apologizes and starts to go to bed, saying she just needs some sleep. And the children say, well, tomorrow's her birthday, we gotta make up for this. And they put together this plan to make all of their favorite foods to feed to their mom the next morning. And so they go about to the kitchen as quietly as they can at night, and they start to make their favorite foods, and obviously it doesn't turn out well. They've never done it before. So Mac gets upset because his oatmeal's lumpy, and he dumps it into Jack's applesauce. Jack's upset about that, so he dumps it into Mary Lou's bowl of bread dough. Mary Lou's like, well, can't use this anymore, dumps it into Lucy's pink lemonade, and so on, until everything comes into Peter's pot. So the kitchen's a mess, they're all disappointed, and they say, well, we better hide this before anyone sees, and they put it into the oven, not knowing that the oven is still hot. So the next morning, Mrs. Peters wakes up to this wonderful smell, and what they created with all of their food is this perfect pink birthday cake for Mrs. Peters. So obviously a really good message, and what I love about it is there's not just one message either. There's so many things that can be learned, basically, that moms aren't always superheroes, and that sometimes being picky about what you eat isn't going to help your mother have patience. Or working together using all of your strengths can actually turn out to be something great. Or when things look dull and dreary and at their worst, that's just before something good is about to happen. There's really so many messages that come from this book, and I think it caters to a wide age range because of that. But yeah, those are just some reasons why this is my favorite book. I would recommend it to anyone and everyone, because the illustrations and the narrative really work together to create this warm, relatable, and clever story that I think teaches some really great messages. But yeah, thank you for watching.